Hi, there's my drivers talking to you tonight about going back to school. The kids went back in most places this morning to school and are getting ready to participate in learning and being socialized in our institutions. So that's what happened this morning. And of course, we have to adjust our driving with kids going back to school because now school zones are in effect, and you must do the posted speed limit between the hours of 8 and 5 for the most part. These are not 24 hours. These are not in place all the time. They're not in place on holidays, and they're not in place on weekends. It's only when school is in session for the purposes of keeping kids safe. So know that. Evan is here. Mallory is here from the Maritimes. My friend, hello. Cyber Mittens tuning in from Manitoba. And Ray is here. Hello, everyone. And if you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from, what class of license you're getting, if you're going to start a career as a truck or bus driver as well. And, of course, with the implementation of the mandatory entry-level training, that's a bit more expensive now. So we're talking about that. Elevator Fan is here. Hello, my friend. So let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you're going for, and if we can help you out with some defensive driving. We're going to talk about that as well, so let us know. Sean is tuning in from Minnesota. Melissa, hello. G2 driver, yay, finally. I'm a mom of 5 kids. Congratulations, Melissa, on surviving the 5 kids and as well getting your driver's license. Monticello, Indiana. Hello from Indiana. Awesome. And LTA Productions is here. My friend Tim, Drive Smart BC. So if you are in the province of British Columbia and want more information about traffic safety, policing, court decisions, traffic engineering, roads, how roads are maintained, and those kinds of topics, definitely check out Drive Smart BC as well. Check out the forum there where you can participate and have questions and discussions with other experts in the field of traffic safety and road engineering and all of the things that go underneath the umbrella, the big umbrella of traffic safety. Jessica's here watching your videos today. Awesome. You're from Colorado. Hello. Welcome to Smart Drive Test. Jasmine is here. Passed your driver's test on the August the 20th. Congratulations on passing your license. That is tremendous news. Thank you for stopping back and letting us know, because as we say, you only get your first license one time, and there's quite no feeling like it. It's really awesome when you get your license the first time, and you have that empowerment. You have the ability to drive around and go places on your own, drive your vehicle and those types of things. And I've been doing a lot of reading about electric vehicles, and we did a poll last week on which kind of vehicle would you purchase: gas, hybrid, electric, or diesel. And just, if you're tuning in or you're watching on the replay, let us know in the comments what kind of vehicle you would buy, what power source you would use, whether you would consider buying a fully electric vehicle, a hybrid vehicle, a gas engine, or a diesel engine. Which would you use? Jasmine, I'm from GA but currently reside in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Great place. LTA rather, sorry. Still have my B license. School starts tomorrow for us. Hopefully I remember how to drive a bus. I'm sure that you're going to do just fine, LTA. You're going to do just fine. Straight Edge Trucker, currently in training for Class 1 out in New Brunswick. Awesome. That is great. And Tim was saying that this week on his website he wrote a blog about e-bikes. And no doubt, this is a topic of conversation amongst the bureaucrats who are responsible for traffic safety and traffic laws, because electronic scooters, electric bikes, these types of things, I think they're a great thing because they get people out, they get people exercising. They're not exercising as much. And when I'm riding my regular pushy, as they're called in England and Australia, it behooves me a little bit when they go screaming past me on a hill and they're barely pedaling, and I'm like trying to get up the hill because we live on East Hill, and there's a fairly big hill. My mother calls them mountains. They're not actually hills. So yeah, that's great, electric bicycles and electric scooters, but they do pose interesting traffic questions and safety questions for those of us who are sharing road space and vying for road space. So another question to be answered. Jasmine, I'm thinking about getting a hybrid car, looking at a 2023 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid, and I would recommend a hybrid car. The Prius has proved itself reliable. They're used by taxi companies, and they're symbiotic. If the petrol engine's running, it's charging the batteries in the vehicle, and when the batteries are charged, then you can drive around on the battery powers in the vehicle. And there have obviously been some growing pains with electric cars and batteries and those types of things, and hopefully all of that technology will work itself out. But there are going to be some growing pains, and there are some questions about environmentalism, about how much it costs to create and build a new vehicle. What are we using for energy? And as well, what do we do with these batteries when the life runs out of them, when they need to be replaced, and those types of things. So there's all kinds of questions around fully electric cars yet to be worked out. And the state of California has banned, as of 2035, the production of petrol engines. So they're going fully electric. And when I was in Spain, the other thing about electric vehicles is that hybrid vehicles now have to be able to travel up to 60 kilometers in the city and back out on electric power. So you can't use petrol engines in Barcelona and other cities in Europe. So consider that as well, because if it's happening in Europe, it's going to be a matter of time before it comes to North America. LTM actually trading in my 2011 Leaf for a new Elantra. Sadly, the battery is done, and EVs cost way too much right now. So LTA, trading in your Leaf. Okay, interesting. It'd be interesting to know a little bit more about that, why you're doing that. Straight Edge, hey Rick, do you have a link to a full pre-trip inspection video? And I do. I haven't seen Corey yet in the things here, but Straight Edge, if Corey doesn't get here, then send me a link. Send me an email, rick@smartdrivetest.com, and I will send you the link to the pre-trip inspection video on the channel there. All right, so without further ado, let's get over to the presentation. We'll get through that. It'll be about 10 to 12 minutes, and then we'll come back. We'll answer any questions you have about passing your driver's test, becoming a safer, smarter driver, or becoming a truck or bus driver. So we're going to talk a little bit about back to school driving, some of the safety tips that you can put in place, strategies, and simply changing the way we're thinking about driving, that we're not running out the door at the last minute and then we hit the school zone, or we get in the line at the school to drop off our kids and those types of things. Just know that there are some practices that you're going to have to put in place to keep yourself and others on the roadway safe. So here we go. Back to school driving. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, which is 30 years ago now. Crazy to think. While I was going to university in Australia in the early 2000s, I was driving for Greyhound and one of the local bus lines there as well, so I have coach experience as well. Became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997 in a bid to kind of come off the road, because I was driving long haul between Ontario, Canada, and mostly eastern United States, everything east of the Mississippi. I did get out to the western states and those types of things, in the Midwest and whatnot, but mostly east of the Mississippi, the eastern seaboard, and drove New York for 6 months, and that was interesting. A lot of people truck drivers refuse to drive in New York City. I never had an issue with New York City. I did have a theory about that most of the truck drivers who got into trouble were either looking for drugs or looking for other illegal activities that you can partake in those big cities. But myself never really had an issue driving in New York City, other than trying to get around in the 1990s, because of course this is before cell phones and GPS, and you had to use a map and call people and get directions and whatnot, so there was a skill involved in that. 2006, I graduated from the University of Melbourne with my doctorate in legal history, and in 2015 started the online YouTube channel. It's been wildly successful, more successful than I could have imagined. I mean, this month we're not Mr. Beast, 100 million subscribers, but this month we're going to turn over 250,000 subscribers, which is a lot of people for a topic of traffic safety and passing a driver's test. So if you want to know more about that, you can check out the autobiography over on the Smart Drive Test website. Great stuff to look at. Refusing to play nice with the short I put up last week about a truck trying to pass a little car, and the little car was pacing the big truck, and the big truck then tried to move back over and get out of the passing lane, and quite a good discussion around that about who is right, who is wrong, and it's not a clear-cut case of who is right and who is wrong. As well, look out the podcast over at the Smart Drive Test website, and you can look at car care and maintenance. The defensive driving model that I have created is called Scope 3, and it includes social driving, space management, speed management, observation, and communication. Social driving is the challenge that you face when you go out and drive every day. People are going to cut you off. People aren't going to signal. They're not going to come to a complete stop at stop-signed intersections. They're going to drive over painted islands. They're going to cut you off. They're going to follow too close. They're going to tailgate. These are all characteristics and traits of social driving. This is what you're up against when you're driving every day. And essentially, the two tools that you need to put in place to make yourself a safer, smarter driver are maintaining a 3 to 4 second following distance when you're driving, and stopping in traffic at traffic lights so you can see the tires of the vehicle in front of you making clear contact with the pavement. Approximately 1 vehicle length. Going out and expecting somebody not to do something goofy when you're driving is like going to watch your favorite sports teams and expecting the other team not to score. Thinking that other people aren't going to cut you off, thinking that other people are going to signal all the time is not realistic thinking in terms of driving. So one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to make the defensive driving model look at the problem of driving. This is the problem. And then the tools of defensive driving are space management, speed management, observation, and communication. Space management, as I said, the two things, 3 to 4 second following distance and stopping in traffic approximately 1 vehicle length from the vehicles in front of you. And then speed management, speed differentials, is that we need to look at speed differentials. You need to look at the different speeds that different road user groups are traveling. For example, if you're traveling at 30 miles an hour in your car, pedestrians are traveling at approximately 6 miles an hour. Therefore, there is a speed differential of 24 miles an hour. If you're on a highway, it's going to be even more, and you're going to gain on those road user groups, and you're going to not have your minimum safe distance between you and other road user groups. And that's what you need to do, is to maintain space between your vehicle and other vehicles on the roadway. And then, of course, you want to observe properly. You want to shoulder check. And as I say to students again and again and again, shoulder check every time you change directions of the vehicle. Shoulder check every time you move the vehicle sideways. Not shoulder checking is to driving. What not checking to see if a weapon is loaded is to gun safety. Why on any planet would you change directions of a 3,000 pound vehicle at speed and not check to see whether there's another vehicle in your blind spots? All right. So observation and then communication in the position of your vehicle is the most effective way to communicate your intent on the roadway. Lights and signals, horn, eye contact, and hand gestures are the other ways that we communicate with traffic on the roadways. All of that is defensive driving, and all of that goes in with school going back into session here this week. Okay, school signs. These are not consistent as are other signs like yield signs, stop signs. Those kinds of signs are all consistent across North America and in Europe. School signs in area, however, are not consistent. But there are 5 different kinds of school signs. School and area sign, speed zone signs, slow when students are present on highways. These are common, but they're becoming, they're not common. They're becoming less common because they're confusing, and essentially what's happening is they're being replaced by school speed zone signs as opposed to slow when students are present. And then school crosswalk signs are another school zone sign. These are regulatory signs. These school speed zone signs are only in effect when school is in session. And speeding in a school speed zone, we need to say that 10 times, is an automatic fail on a driver's test. For all of you taking driver's tests now in the fall, speeding in a school zone is an automatic fail. So know where the schools are in and around where you're taking your driver's test, because as I said, automatic fail on a driver's test. As I said, these slow when students present on a highway, these are becoming less common, and they're simply replacing them with a speed zone sign. And the reason for this, as I talked about in the defensive driving model, is speed management, speed differentials. They're trying to reduce the speed differential between pedestrians and motor cars. So if you're traveling at 20 kilometers an hour, for example, a pedestrian is traveling at 10 kilometers an hour, therefore the speed differential is only 10 kilometers an hour. You have more space, you have more time, and it's less likely that you're going to strike a pedestrian. And if you do strike a pedestrian, there's less likelihood that you're going to fatally injure that pedestrian because you've reduced the speed differential between your car and the pedestrian. That's the reason for this. School buses. And I see the campaigns every year that you need to stop for a school bus when the sign is extended and the lights are flashing. And I don't even know why we need to say this, why we need to remind people, but the number of people who pass school buses with the lights flashing simply boggles my mind. But here we go, okay? You'll find school buses in rural and both urban areas, okay? The yellow lights warn that the bus is about to come to a stop. When the bus does come to a stop and they're about to open the door, they will have a red light that will activate the flashing lights at the top of the bus. The school arm will extend, and there are flashing red lights on the stop arm. Some of these buses, most of the buses now, will also have cattle guards on the front, which is an arm that goes out, which forces the kids that are going to cross the highway to walk out far enough that they're not in the blind area in front of the bus, because there have been near misses where bus drivers didn't know that there were still kids in front of the bus and have driven off, and there's been near misses of them. So know that as well, okay? And know that there are severe penalties if you are caught passing a school bus with the flashing lights, with the red flashing lights activated. All right, know that. As well, many of the buses now will all have strobe lights to get your attention as well, because our eyes are attracted to light and movement, and strobe lights really attract our attention. So another way to get our attention focused on the school bus is the fact that they have strobe lights on the top. School crossing guards have the same authority as police. Obey the directions of the crossing guards. Now, crossing guards, maybe where you live in the United States or maybe in a different province, there are more crossing guards, but for whatever reason, because of budget cuts and school policies and whatnot, we have a few crossing guards in British Columbia where I live, but they're less and less. And most of the time when they do have them, they tend to be at busy, well-controlled intersections. They're not at the places that I think that they should be, which is the roundabout down at the bottom of the hill, where, as far as I'm concerned, you take your life into your own hands trying to get across before the roundabout. So I would, at a controlled intersection, I would rather have the crossing guard up at the roundabout rather than at the controlled intersection. But obviously, people in higher positions of power think differently than I do. So mostly at busy intersections, but not always. And they're at intersections within the vicinity of the school. So good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. My friend Epic is here. Here's another thing about school zone signs. They're in different colors, black and neon green, and also black on yellow. Furthermore, expect heavy fines if caught speeding due to police presence. And that is absolutely true. And the other piece that Epic was saying there, as I was saying in the presentation, is that school signs are the least consistent of the traffic signs on the roadway. And I'm not sure what happened here, but I can posit a guess, which is the fact that signs, some of the traffic signs do not fall under standardization as other ones do, and school signs tend to be both municipal and state as opposed to federal regulations or any organization that is international that's going to police the standardization of these signs. But I think that one of the things that we need to do is we need to standardize school signs. I think that would go a long way to improving safety in and around schools when kids are going there in the mornings and in the afternoon. Elevator fan says, I don't run school bus stop signs, and that's good. We're happy to hear that. I'd like to hear that nobody actually, in fact, does it. But as I said, there are severe penalties, and more with dash cams. And everybody with a phone now, somebody's going to be taking a picture, somebody's going to be taking a video, so there is a high probability that you could potentially get a fine even after the fact. They just come and track you down. Jasmine, if people don't care about running red lights, they will likely not have an issue with passing a school bus with stop signs extended. And Jasmine, I agree. I agree with your sentiment there. If they're, they don't have any gumption about running through a stop sign, they're simply not going to have any gumption running around a stopped school bus for sure. LTA, this is the first year Ontario will have amber warning lights. Okay, and I see that as a good thing. Tim says in BC it is in effect on a regular school day. Pro D days mean no classes, but it is still a regular school day. Yes, because teachers are potentially still at the school, and there could be students doing extracurricular activities and those types of things. Tim says maybe I should call it antisocial driving. I would like to call it antisocial driving, but it's a social activity. Driving is a social activity, and that's why I call it social driving, because we're getting along regardless of what the rules are, regardless of what the culture is. It's not antisocial behavior because most people are participating in these traits and characteristics of social driving. Few people come to a stop at stop sign intersections. Few people stop one vehicle length back from the vehicles in front of them. Most people speed. So because of the culture of driving, it's socially acceptable to do these things, these driving behaviors that could potentially be unsafe. So that's why I call it social driving as opposed to antisocial driving. Because if it was antisocial, we would be shunning and ostracizing the people on the roadway who are doing it, when in fact we're not. And we all have the same kind of sentiment that if somebody's driving slower than us, they're a dummy, and if somebody is driving faster than us, then they're a bonehead, right? Because we go first. We're the ones that are right. Everybody else is wrong. It's kind of us against me against them mentality when we go out and drive, for sure. Jessica, a lot of people like to go through red lights and semi-trucks give me anxiety. Like, geez, it scares me. Yes, excellent. Carl, hello, my friend from Ajax, Ontario. How are you? Bluey, I got my clip. I go to Smith & Solomon. Just finished my pre-trip on the engine. I'm about to move on to the pre-trip inside the truck. Locked and loaded. Awesome. That is great, my friend. Mallory School has started today in Nova Scotia and will start tomorrow in Prince Edward Island. Yes, and I'm not sure why some of the schools even go. I mean, my kids went today, but they only went for an hour and a half. And they didn't figure out we got emailed a list of which classes they're in for tomorrow. So, I mean, they did go in, but they went back to their old classes that they were in last year. So, I'm not really sure what the point was of going today, but they did go back today, and a lot of schools, as you said, are not going to go back till tomorrow. So, Carl got hired as a full-time bus operator, and that is awesome, my friend. Congratulations. I bet you're super excited to become a bus driver there with Transit Metrolink. Awesome. Congratulations. John, not all the people knew how to look at traffic lights right. Yeah, because some traffic lights, no doubt, there was a discussion in the comments this week that some of the traffic lights can be deceiving. No doubt about that. David, beware of school speed limit signs, whether it's 15, 20, or 25 miles an hour. At least where I live in New York, police are strict about speeding in those zones, and they are very much so. So yes, be sure to take note. Most of the school speed zone signs that are in effect in the United States are going to have flashing lights, or there will be big neon signs that will tell you when these school speed zones are in effect, what speed that you have to travel. Now, one of the things is if you are in New York City, in most cities in New York State, the posted speed limit inside the city is going to be 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. Some places it's going to be 30, but it will be posted on the speed zones or the speed signs, and the school speed zones will be very noticeable. Okay, they'll be big and well marked out. So take note of that. Take note of the traffic slowing down and what other people are doing and whatnot, and be careful. And of course, more vigilant scanning when you're in and around these crowded areas where kids are walking to school and riding their bicycles and those types of things. I know that some areas will have less of that because more parents will be driving their kids to school, but it is what it is. Tyler, my friend, how are you? Elevator, I don't speed through school zones. I always drive the speed limit through school zones. And yes, as you should. And most of the other traffic is going to be doing the speed limit through the school speed zones as well. And, you know, I am victim as well as being a driver. I've been caught out a few times wondering why everybody else is driving slow, and then find out, oh, yes, right, we're in a school zone and don't want to be speeding. So, lamb sauce. Hey, Rick, is turning left at an intersection on a red or yellow light when it's safe an automatic fail for the purposes of a road test? Lamb sauce, it won't be an automatic fail if you're committed to the intersection, but it's difficult for me to comment on yellow and red lights at an intersection whether you're going to turn left. Most new drivers who are taking a driving test simply don't have the experience to be able to do it well. And unfortunately, with driving examiners, most of the time they're simply going to fail you outright because you're going to take too long. If the light turns yellow and you are committed to the intersection and you are ready to go, as soon as that light turns yellow, the vehicle needs to be moving forward in a straight line. And as soon as you've triple checked that the oncoming traffic has in fact come to a stop, you need to be turning, and you need to be doing it as quickly as you can. What happens is the mistake that many new drivers make is that they'll be sitting there, they're committed to the intersection, they have to go and the light turns yellow, and they'll sit there waiting for the oncoming traffic to come to a stop instead of driving straight into the intersection and moving the vehicle forward. So that is the mistake that most new drivers make, and that is the reason that most drivers on a driving test when turning left on a yellow or red light fail the driver's test. So know that for the purposes of turning left or turning left rather on a yellow or red light. Jessica, but why do people go through yellow lights? People go through yellow lights because they've got a lot of momentum and the light just turned yellow and they enter the intersection and they move through it. Team, just to say thank you, sir. I watched some of your videos and I passed. Thank you again. And team, you are most welcome. Congratulations on passing your driver's license test. And thank you so much for stopping back and letting us know that you passed. Awesome, awesome. Literature. One driving fault that I struggle with is checking the blind spot when changing lanes. Whenever I check the blind spot to the left driver's side, I tend to drift a little bit to the right. And literature, I can tell you exactly what's happening is that you're not shoulder checking fast enough, okay? So shoulder check is just like this. Quick shoulder check. Because what's happening with you is that you're shoulder checking and you're going like this. And you're looking over there, and as you're looking over there, the car will go where you're looking. So if you're looking there, the car is going to drift. So that's what's happening. So speed up your shoulder check. Just quick shoulder check, and the car will stop going in the direction that you're looking. So that'll help you out with that, okay? Smooth, I've been told I'd be a great driving instructor. I looked online and saw there may be just as much steps becoming a driving instructor as there is to becoming a truck driver. And Smooth, you're probably right. Being a driving instructor, being a truck driver. Which one? I don't know. It depends whether you want to be home every night. I mean, if you want to be home every night, being a driving instructor would be great. If you're going to teach cars, because obviously you're thinking about being a truck driver as well. If you're going to teach cars, I'm going to tell you right now that you're going to work between 1 and 9 p.m. during the day. And a lot of weekends because that's just when driving instructors work. So you need to decide if that's what you want to do as well, because you're going to work from 1 in the afternoon till 9 at night. Unless you have driving tests in the morning. But for the most part, there aren't a lot of driving tests in the morning. And if you do, well, then that's what it is. But most of the hours for driving instructors teaching cars, 1 to 9. Okay? Then, of course, if you get your truck driving license, there are a lot of options in terms of truck driving. You can drive in town. You can drive regional, where you're gone 1 or maybe 2 days and then back. You can drive long haul and be gone for weeks at a time. If you've got a family, that's really going to be tough. And then there's all kinds of different work that you can do. You can haul a van. You can do general freight. You can haul a tanker, haul gasoline, haul milk. You can run flat deck. There's quite a bit of money actually in flat deck, hauling machinery, hauling lumber, timber, anything that'll go on a flat deck that you can strap down on those types of things. So there's a lot of options to either one of those careers. You're going to make more money as a truck driver than you will as a driving instructor. Unfortunately, driving instructors, especially just teaching car, don't make a lot of money. And my experience in the last kind of 25 years, it's probably a little bit more now, and it's more if you start your own company as well. Driving instructors teaching car usually make about $15 an hour. One of the reasons I went on to teach truck driving was because, you know, car instructors made $15 an hour, whereas teaching truck driving, I was making $25 an hour. So I was making considerably more money teaching truck driving, and that's the reason that I became a truck driving instructor as opposed to a car driving instructor. David, people need to pay attention to stop school buses as penalties for running are really stiff. Yes, they are. Sports, do you think that if I drive to school every day as a learner, will it help me to get ready for my driving exam? Sports, yes, it will. Any driving experience that you can get in preparation for your driving test is going to help you become a better, smarter driver and to pass your driving test. Absolutely. Smooth. Okay, we already answered that. Mallory, if you can see a school bus stop, please stop far enough away no matter what direction you're going and to keep everyone safe on the roadway when I was in school, and I will come home. Awesome. Thank you, Mallory. Smooth, I've actually never driven a truck or a vehicle larger than a van. Well, Smooth, go to truck driving school. They'll teach you how to drive a big truck. It's lots of fun, and it's good fun for the first year or so, and then after that it's a bit of a work. But there's a reason that truck drivers get paid, and they get paid pretty well. So, you know, I mean, within a couple of years, you'll easily be making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year as a truck driver. Of course, depending on what kind of work you're doing, what kind of company you're working in, those types of things. Tough to get into in the beginning when you just get out of truck driving school and you don't have a whole lot of experience. But once you get those few months of experience under your belt, then it's pretty easy to get a job after that. Corey, how are you, my friend? Sports, what are the bad habits do you recommend learners to avoid? Sports, the two are that you don't stop back one vehicle length from vehicles in front of you when stopped in traffic. You're just simply too close. And then 3 to 4 second following distance. All right, so you need to have that space management. That is the most important thing when driving. If you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit anything. So maintain that space. Lamb sauce, jiu-jitsu has been awesome. We did some training when I was in Ontario with my sensei, my karate sensei, who I worked with for years and years. And kids had some private lessons, and then of course it was like Candyland one night because it was a class of jiu-jitsu and it was 3 white belts and me. And it's funny, you know, even though I'm pretty low on the totem pole, I'm just a blue belt. Not just a blue belt, but I am a blue belt. And, you know, it's funny how much you realize you've learned in the few years you've been training. So that was good. And, you know, come back and go back and see all the people at the club that I train at. So it's been really good. And, you know, fall's coming and looking forward to getting back to training. Jasmine, Rick, can you explain the classification system of driver licensing in Canada? Is it much different compared to the USA? Thanks. Jasmine, no. It's pretty much the same as it is in the United States. It's a little bit different if you're in the province of Ontario, but for the most part, driver's classification is your car, motorcycle, bus, small bus, you know, less than 25 passengers, including the driver, dump trucks, and then tractor trailers and large buses. So those are the different classifications. They can be slightly different than that, but that's basically it. So big trucks, tractor trailers, dump trucks, straight trucks, 5 tons, buses, big buses, more than 25 passengers, small buses, ambulances, and those types of things. And then you have cars and motorcycles. Those are your classifications of licenses. As I said, it's more or less the same in Canada and in the United States. Tim, my friend, have a great dinner, and we will talk to you next week, my friend. Smart jiu-jitsu test. Yes, indeed. Lamb sauce, how are your kids enjoying training? Did they hate it at first? No. You know, I kind of don't really give them an option to go. So they go, and I think it's a good social experience for them. And of course, they get a little bit of self-defense training. So it's good. But, you know, my daughter is going through a period of time right now where she's having a challenging time. And she kind of came up against my sensei, who's a lot more strict than our jiu-jitsu coach. So that was a bit of a challenge for her, for sure. Elevator fan, yellow means caution. If you can't stop safely, you have to proceed through the intersection with caution. Not so much. That is one of the misconceptions about people with yellow lights. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, elevator fan. You're probably saying something a little bit different. But yellow means stop if you can do so safely. Okay, that's what it means. A lot of people think it means proceed with caution. It doesn't mean proceed with caution. It means stop if you can. And a lot of people think that they can just go. And somebody left a comment on the YouTube channel there that they said that they slid through an intersection when it was slippery out, and that yellow lights, you know, that's what they're there for, and it's okay to go through the yellow light. And I'm like, you weren't driving to the conditions of the road, and you're endangering yourself and other people on the roadway. So that's not safe at all. My friend Big Mac Sam, how are you, my friend? How is life in the Bronx there? Corey says, I have my test tomorrow. Any last minute tips? Yes, we can give you some of those for sure. Epic. Another thing about school buses is that in some states you are actually allowed to pass them if you are on the other side of a divided highway at a speed of 10 miles an hour. Actually, if you're on the other side of a divided highway that has a barrier, whether that's a grass area or it's a concrete strip, then yes, you can pass on the other side. New York is the only state that's different, and New York likes to be a little bit different. If there's a school bus on a multi-lane road that's divided by a concrete barrier, then you don't have to come to a stop. And we're not talking about in town with a broken, divided concrete barrier. You can't pass school buses that are stopped. Now, on highways, it's unlikely, on a multi-lane highway divided by a concrete barrier, it's unlikely that a school bus is going to be stopping out there, because you've got a multi-lane highway. It's probably a limited access highway. There aren't going to be a lot of houses out there, so there aren't going to be school buses that are going to be stopping. So the point is a little bit mute. So know that when you can pass a school bus, most of the time they're going to be on 2-lane country roads. That's where they're picking up kids and taking them into school and those types of things. So know that for the purposes of driving tests, driving safely, keeping yourself safe when you're driving out in rural areas and whatnot. Sports talk. Yellow lights scare me. I always debate if I have enough time to stop or not. And yes, in the beginning, sports, when you're learning how to drive, yellow lights can cause you a bit of grief. However, after a couple of times of approaching a yellow light, figuring out how fast you're traveling, how long it takes you to get the vehicle stopped, and those types of things, you'll figure it out pretty quickly. But it's another one of those things in driving that doesn't happen all the time, right? It's like, unless you live in Minnesota or you live in the Dakotas, you're not going to encounter snow. If you live in Texas, as they did 2 years ago, and they got just a really crazy winter, they don't know how to drive in winter. It's the same thing as driving in heavy rain. We rarely get heavy rain. We rarely get hail. It's the same thing with yellow lights. We rarely get a yellow light. And in order to drive around and actually hit a yellow light and figure this out is going to take a bit of time and a bit of experience in order for you to encounter those skills. So it can be a bit daunting when you're learning how to drive, because it's not going to happen all the time. It's not like two-way stop signs, right? So you got to figure that out. And just with a little bit of experience, you'll get better at yellow lights. Jessica, I know what a turn means, but I need to be explained a lot more. That's not a question. I just need to understand more of U-turns. Oh, a U-turn. Okay, so there's a video here on the channel. Send me an email. I'll send you the link for the YouTube for the video. Corey's not here tonight, unfortunately, but I'll get that for you. Not that bad. What's your favorite car? Not that bad. Used to be Hondas. I was a big Honda advocate. Now I've driven 2 Audis, my girlfriend's Audi, and my mom had an Audi before we bought her a van. And even despite the fact that the engine was gone in it, the rings were gone in it. It was the first 4-cylinder vehicle that I drove that I would have driven a 4-cylinder with an automatic transmission behind it. So that's what I would have done. I would have driven that Audi. It was an A4. I really liked it. It was nice as well. So yes, I'm a big Audi fan now. Okay, Mallory, some school buses now have onboard cameras. Yes, they do, Mallory. Actually, almost all school buses now are fitted with dash cams in case people are passing, that they can get that on the dash cam and report that to police. Jasmine says she loves Toyotas. Awesome, and they're a good vehicle as well. Elevator fan, I have seen drivers run school bus stop signs at times, and yes, unfortunately it happens. Sam, you said something here. Where'd you go? No, I don't use StreamYard. Should I use StreamYard? What's your thoughts on that, Sam? Jasmine, yep, Rick, in the Pennsylvania driver's manual, it says a steady yellow light means prepare to stop. If you're already in the intersection, then you should proceed. Yes, if you're already in the intersection, for sure. Waiting on the next interview video. Sam, okay. Smooth, was driving in New York the most unorthodox for you when it comes to driving anywhere in the world? No, I've had other interesting places. Chicago, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Miami, Florida. They're all just as interesting. Boston, Massachusetts. Boston is actually, in my opinion, harder to drive in than New York City is, because New York City is on a grid, whereas Boston, Massachusetts is an old colonial city, and it has an inner circle. And I've been on roads in Boston, Massachusetts, where you're driving down the street and the street ends at a building. And when you're in a big truck, it's very challenging to get out of there. It's a little bit easier when you're in a car, but in a big truck, it's a lot more challenging. Jasmine, I like Audis, but I don't have Audi money. Actually, Audis aren't as expensive as you'd think. So, they're probably not much more expensive. I mean, you're gonna obviously not a new one, but a secondhand Audi is probably going to cost you the same amount of money you'd pay for a Honda or a Toyota. So that's my next consideration. Jasmine, have I driven in Philadelphia? Yes, Jasmine, I have indeed driven in Philadelphia as well. Philadelphia is another one of those large cities in the United States, up there with Miami and Raleigh, North Carolina, those places, for sure. Philadelphia has its challenges as well. Excellent. So, Sam, StreamYard, I'll check it out again. I think I tried to use it once and it didn't work as well as I had hoped it would for me. So that's the other reason that the links aren't on here. Maybe that's something that I could look into and it would help me to put the links up here. All right, so somebody asked me for last minute tips on taking driving tests. Apologies on who asked me that. Okay, Corey asked me that. Any tips on driving? Okay, so there's 4 components of any driving test and staying safe on the roadways. Space management, speed management, observation, and communication. So space management, if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. 2 to 3 second following distance minimum for the entire duration of your drive. Stopping at the correct stopping position at controlled intersections, before the stop line, before the crosswalk line. If those 2 conditions don't exist, then at the edge of the road just before entering the intersection. Stopping in traffic approximately 1 vehicle length back from the vehicles in front of you. The way you can tell that is you can see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the pavement. 3 feet minimum between your vehicle and pedestrians and other vulnerable road users, cyclists and whatnot. And if you're turning right, the pedestrian is coming towards you, you need 1.5 lanes. If the pedestrian is going away from you, you need half a lane between you and the pedestrian before you can proceed with your right-hand turn or your left-hand turn. Speed management. Posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less for the purposes of your driver's test. So that means that whatever the posted speed limit is, you need to be driving. Don't dally. Get it up to speed as quickly as you can. So if the speed limit is 30 miles an hour and the traffic is doing 25 miles an hour, you can only do 25 miles an hour. That's what I mean by posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less. Speed differentials. No, as I said in the presentation, that different road user groups are going to have different speed differentials, right? Pedestrians are going to be doing 5 or 6 miles an hour. Cyclists, mostly 15 or 20 miles an hour. Motorcycles, those types of things, electric scooters, electric bicycles, whatnot, are going to have different speeds. So kind of take note of all of that. Know the different characteristics of different traffic on the roadway. Observation. Forward scanning pattern. Far down the road, check the instrument panel. Far down the road, check your center mirror. Far down the road, check your left wing mirror. Far down the road, check your right wing mirror. That's your forward scanning pattern. Your forward scanning pattern is tied into your speed control. So yes, you can go over and under the speed limit, but not by very much, 2 or 3 miles an hour. If you are consistently going over the speed, what that is telling the driving examiner is that you are not observing correctly. So observation is tied into speed management. Shoulder checking every time you move the vehicle sideways, every time you turn. Shoulder check minimum 2 times for changing directions or turns. So approximately half a block, quick shoulder check to the right, and get to the corner, you're going to shoulder check right. If you're there for a long time, you might need to shoulder check again. Shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check for the purposes of your driving test. When you're backing up, look first, check your backup camera. You can use that. Check your mirrors. For the duration of your back, you need to be looking out the back window. Make sure that you do a 360-degree scan around the vehicle before you start backing up. Last piece is communication. The position of your vehicle on the roadway is going to communicate intent to other road users. Lights and signals. And then hand gestures. Don't tell them number 1 on a driver's test for sure. You won't be successful. Eye contact, and then horn. Use your horn sparingly because in this day and age it's seen as a sign of aggression. So 4 tools, 4 components of a driver's test. Space management, speed management, observation, and communication. That's what you need to do for the purposes of your driver's test. Okay? Sam, I was a school bus driver back in 98 and so many drivers ignored my red lights and stop arm. I wrote up so many drivers, and it's unfortunate because these are the stories that I hear from school bus drivers all the time. Sam, I think you were doing fine without StreamYard, but it's nice to use. It has extra perks. Maybe you should look into it. I don't know if you would like it. There's free and paid. You're fine, though. Thank you, my friend. Okay. Excellent. Elevator, I passed my driver's test in 2019, so you've been driving for a couple of years. And how has the couple of years of driving been going, my friend? Sports talk. Also, it is normal to overthink, stress about learning to drive because I tend to lose motivation even if I'm a decent driver. Sports talk, you just basically got to get through it, got to get your driver's license. Do what you need to do to pass your test, okay? Because after you get your test, then you can work on all that other stuff that you need to do to be a safer, smarter driver. But if you can put those 2 components in place where you're maintaining that 2 to 3 second following distance and controlling space using the throttle, not using the brake. So the only time that you should be using the brake in your car to control space is coming to a stop, slowing for turning vehicles in front of you, controlling your speed on a downgrade, or unexpected events. If you can do that and use the brake only for those 4 events, then you're doing really well at controlling space in front of your vehicle. I know that is an ideal, and it is an ideal because I get caught out all the time and have to use my brake. But if you're trying to control space in front of your vehicle and you find yourself using the brake repeatedly all the time while you're driving, you're following too close. That's what it's telling you. So the less you can use the brake, the better your following distance is. And for most people, I can tell you this on the roadway. I put up a poll a couple of weeks ago, and I need to write an article about it. 90% of people said that they paid attention to what their following distance was in front of their vehicle. But one of my favorite pastimes is when I'm walking, when I'm driving, I'm watching other people drive, and every one of them, as in my mind, I'm thinking, what are they? They're all in the Indianapolis 500 because they're all drafting. They are far too close to the vehicle in front of them, and there is no minimum safe distance between their vehicle and the other vehicle on the roadway, let alone other road users getting involved, bicycles, electric scooters, whatnot on the roadway. So if you double your following distance, you'll be a safer, smarter driver on the roadway. Elevator, I have had one accident with a utility pole and my left ear was swollen. Okay. And, well, it's good that you just had that minor injury. Any crash that you can walk away from is a good crash for sure. Lamson, what are your thoughts on the Ontario driving license system, the G1, G2? What would you change about it? Okay, lamb sauce, the GDL, the GLP, it doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. And, you know, government agencies can write all the marketing they want on the fact that it's working. The fact is it's not working. It's simply postponed the age at which drivers now get their license. So instead of getting their license when they're 16 or 17 years old, drivers are now getting their license when they're 17, 18, 19 years old. So what the GLP, what you're talking about in terms of the G1, the G2, it's simply postponed when young drivers have gotten a license. It hasn't reduced number of crashes amongst young drivers at all. And the other piece of information that government authorities are saying is that, the number of crashes between 16 and the number of traffic fatalities between 16 and 18 years old has been reduced significantly. Well, of course it has, because drivers are no longer getting their license at 16 and 18. They're now getting their license when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. So that's what's happened with that. So it's not working. Carl, thanks again, Rick, for your help to a lot of us drivers on the road. Amazing leadership. Have a great evening. And you are most welcome, Carl. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your words of encouragement, my friend. Mallory, a driver's commentary will help you out as you go through the steps of driving. Absolutely. That is a great tip, Mallory. A running commentary, talking to yourself while you're driving, is a great learning tool because you'll begin to vocalize, in fact, what you're doing, what you're looking at. And I tell drivers all the time, even when you're taking your test, talk to yourself, have that running commentary. That way the driving instructor, the driving examiner, whoever is in the vehicle with you is not second guessing what you're looking at, what you're thinking, what your course of action is. They know what you're doing because you're talking out loud, you're running through it. And you'll also learn faster when you're doing and talking at the same time. So that's a strategy of learning. David, driving after getting your license is different than driving during the test when it comes to speed, as people sometimes want to go faster to avoid being a slow driver, especially on a busy highway. You're absolutely right, David. And I do counsel people to keep up with traffic flow, obviously within reason, because you're more predictable on the roadway. And when you're more predictable on the roadway, you're a safer driver, okay? Sports, like I have a bad habit to look for perfection. For example, even if I did good on the driving lesson, I always tell myself I didn't do good enough. Sports, there's nothing wrong with perfection, but don't let it slip into being that messianic exercise. The exercise where it has to be perfect before I will go on. It has to be perfect before I will do my test. And we used to call that, when I was in graduate school, the messianic thesis. The thesis that had to be absolutely perfect. There's no such thing as the perfect thesis. There's no such thing as the perfect drive. It has to be done. Done is better than perfect. Okay? So you need to get it done. You need to get your license. You need to hand in your dissertation so that you can get your degree. And in the end, that's all you need to do is to get it done. And so get your license and then get on, because you can work on perfection for the rest of your life in whatever you do. And I mean, a lot of us, those of us who are of an older vintage, we're working on perfection our whole lives. We're crafting our skill, right? I've been a driving instructor. I study driving. I study traffic. I'm fascinated by human behavior, what motivates human behavior, what causes people to act in ways that they do when they're behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. Same thing with my sensei. I mean, he's got a black belt, and he's seventh degree black belt in karate. He's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's been honing his craft of martial arts his entire life. And for some of us, that's what happens. We're honing our craft our entire life. So Don't get stuck on the learning how to drive and making it perfect. Know that this is a lifelong pursuit. This is something you're going to do for your whole life. But you need to get to a certain place where it's done. And I need to move on to the next thing in my life, because otherwise you'll just get stuck and you'll stay there for a very long time, and you can't do that. You got to move forward. Great. What do you think about getting a CDL during the wintertime? Great. I think that getting a CDL, getting any license during the wintertime is far superior than doing it in the summertime, because then you come back in the summertime and you can work on some of the skills and abilities that you needed to do, but you're learning at a higher level. let's just make it simple. If you're getting your license in the wintertime, you're learning at a higher level than you would if you're doing it in the summertime. All right, excellent. C, how do you get over having anxiety while driving on freeways? Manage space well. Go out and practice when traffic isn't busy. Later in the evening, early in the morning. Maintain lots of space. Stay over to the right lane. If it's more than 2 lanes, stay in the second from the right. And then if you have somebody that you trust who can give you some feedback, go out with a mentor. All of that is going to help you out with your anxiety on the roadways. D, new subscriber to channel. It's great. Cool to see you live, sir. And that is awesome. Welcome to Smart Drive Test. We're so happy that you're here. And if you have any questions, drop us a note. We'll be more than happy to help you out. Avijay, I had a question on taking long road journeys through very hot weather. What do you recommend to reduce the stress on the car and reduce chances of breaking down or damaging it? Just make sure that your radiator fluid is topped up. Use your air conditioning because you're going to have to do that. The other thing is rather than going out when it's 110 degrees in the middle of the daytime, maybe you could drive later in the evening or drive earlier in the morning, and that way it won't be as hot. But the other thing too is, have siestas. I mean, we as a human population, not in North America, but South America and other places in the world, they have siestas in the afternoon. So maybe you could plan your driving so you're not driving at the hottest parts of the day. But again, get a tune-up. Make sure that your radiator fluid is full. Make sure your air conditioning is working properly. Make sure you have good quality tires on your vehicle, because obviously there's going to be a great deal of heat when you're driving. Make sure that you're paying attention to the heat gauge. Make sure that it isn't overheating while you're driving. Make sure that if it does overheat or you're getting some overheating, the other thing you can do is turn on the heater in the car, and that will pull some of the heat out of the engine into the cabin. It's not very comfortable, but I have done it and that does work. So those are some things that you can do for driving in really hot, inclement weather. Beautify, tuning in from Michigan. Hello, my friend, Houstonian. How to prepare the night before your driver's test. Okay, so the night before, make sure you got your identification, your license, money. It's going to cost money. Make sure that you do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle. Make sure you have the registration. It's up to date. Insurance papers. Make sure that the signals work, the brake lights work, the seatbelt on the passenger side works, the seats are secure, doors open and close from the inside and outside on both sides. Make sure there's no chips in the glass. Engine oil's topped up. Make sure you have plenty of fuel. You don't want to run out of fuel on your driver's test. All those types of things. So check that all out before your night. Get a good night's sleep. Get up in the morning. Go to the toilet. Especially if there aren't facilities at the driver test center, and then show up 20 minutes to a half an hour early. Make sure you back into a parking space unless signs prohibit it, and show up. Good luck. Check in. Come out. Wait at your vehicle. Follow instructions, and breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. That'll cause your body to relax and bring in oxygen and help you to think. And remember, the first 5 minutes of your driver's test, don't say anything, just do what you're told. The driving examiner will give you lots of notice and instructions. Do what you need to do to pass your driver's test. Take away the examiner's right to fail you. Get your license and carry on. Thanks. I was also wondering if you continue using manufacturer recommended tire pressure even in high heat scenarios, if you go 1 or 2 pounds lower than the standard pressure. Avijay, 1 or 2 pounds isn't going to make a lot of difference. I mean, you could run it a little bit less because obviously the tire is going to be hotter. They're going to run at higher pressure. but tires are designed to do that anyway, so it's really not going to matter too much. Now, manufactured recommended pressure, I would talk to the people who put the tires on your vehicle and see what they recommend. Now, my vehicle, for example, runs 24, 25 pounds. That's the manufactured recommended pressure. My tire guys always run 35 pounds in the tires. And I find it actually works better with 35 pounds as opposed to the manufactured. So it's kind of a personal thing. It's kind of what the professionals are telling you in terms of pressure, but do what you need to do, okay? And as Mallory says, you're never too old to stop learning. Awesome. Autumn, greetings from Texas. Your channel helped me a lot. Thank you, sir. And Autumn, you are most welcome, my friend. Sheldon, hello, my friend. Mikado, that's true. CDL test only includes pulling a pup trailer. I don't know about that. You'd need to check your state or province about where you're going to be taking your driver's test. All right, we're going to leave it there for tonight. Congratulations to everybody who's passed a driver's test in the last couple of weeks. If you're watching on the replay, leave a comment down in the comment section. If you have any questions at all, I'm more than happy to help you out. And if you have a road test this week or next week, good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.
Burn them to the park.
Yeah, that's fine, honey.